I'm going to take the 3 butternut squash that grew in my garden, and I'm going to make butternut squash gratin with a Parmesan cheese and onion. So after you peel your butternut squash, you just need to use a spoon to scoop out that little area at the bottom that has the seeds. It's not hard. So I had chopped myself up an onion, cubed my butternut squash, and what I learned was I let the big one get too big. It's my first time growing butternut squash, so I actually got more out of the smaller ones. But I didn't know, now I know. So all you got to do is try something new, and you learn something. So I am going to grate myself a little piece of Parmesan cheese. So then I'm going to saute onion and the butternut cubes in 1 stick of butter. It calls for half a stick, sort of like cheese. There can't be too much, so I'm rolling with a full stick. See what happens. So what I'm hoping for with this recipe is that this would be something I could freeze and then add to, when I go to cook it in the casserole after I've already sauteed the squash and the onion. My goal is to then be able to mix up the breadcrumbs and the Parmesan on top. Because I can certainly make butternut squash soup. I can bake it, but both of those require having your butternut squash fresh. And I would hope that I have a large harvest of butternut squash. In other words, I want something that's sustainable, something that I can keep frozen since I can't can it, that I could always pull out to have as a side. If there is no more groceries to get at a store, I would have these items, and I'm growing the butternut, and there's different ways to eat it. Because once you pick it all at the same time, how much butternut squash can you eat? Come on. So, I'm going to see how this recipe goes. It might suck, but I'm not going to know if I don't try. So I'm giving it a whirl. So I've put in salt, white pepper, and some poultry seasoning. And I'm going to dribble a little bit of oil over this. Olive oil, real good olive oil. I kind of like butter and olive oil together. I'll be baking this in the oven at 400 degrees, about 25 minutes, because I'm going to make a breadcrumb Parmesan cheese mixture that's going on the top. I'm very surprised at how quickly this butternut squash is cooking. Thought it would take like 20 minutes or something to get halfway done. So I'm pleasantly surprised. This is also something I could cook out on my stove tech if I wanted to. I could also bake it in my grill. And I am covering it. I'll be adding a half a cup of heavy cream and a half a cup of, instead of milk, I'm doing half and half. So there'll be a cup of milk product going into this, and then I'm going to let it reduce down before I put it into this old-timey blue flour, wildflower, whatever, old Pyrex dish. They are getting much more tender, and I'm going to guesstimate that this is about a halfway point, because in the large ones I can stick my fork down into them, but not easily, so I'm going to judge that as halfway. And now I'm going to add my cup of heavy cream, and half and half in this case. So I have to let this reduce. Like I said, I haven't done this recipe before. I'm trying to find something that is doable to be frozen, because butternut is like eggplant. It does not stay fresh long, so you have to address it. But I'm hoping this is something I can freeze, then take it out, and then do my breadcrumb Parmesan mixture on the top. So, looks like peaches and cream right now. Kind of bugging me. See what happens. I don't know. I had to turn my super burner down, even on low on the super burner, it was too much. The flavor, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. I turned it down to simmer medium. The flavor of this is fantastic. So far, so good. So I'm going to pour it into the casserole. Then I'll do the breadcrumb, Parmesan, and dribble some olive oil business over it. Alright, so I have it in the casserole, and now I'm going to sprinkle breadcrumbs on it. They're our own breadcrumbs from before bread goes stale. There's just 2 people here. I put it in the dehydrator. So let me sprinkle some of these on. They're not chunky. They're thin, but that's what I have. Use what you got. Now over this, I'm going to dribble some extra virgin olive oil. When you do something like that, use really good olive oil. A lot of things sold as olive oil are not even olive oil. And then our Parmesan cheese. So I got the oven preheating to 400. And it'll go in there till that cheese melts. See what it's like. Ooh, and here's a groovy thing. A friend of mine gave me, well, let me try and speak. These would be glass mayonnaise jars. Because I've been storing my dehydrated goods and things in quart and pint jars. So she gave me 2 large cases of them. And on it fits a small mouth lid with a ring. So it's a heck of a way to get back many of my canning jars. Because these suckers ain't free. You know what I mean? So, here's another one recaptured. And then I'll just put breadcrumbs on this, put it in my pantry. But that's a major space saver, because I can't can with them, but I can certainly store things in them. It's exciting! Well, there it is after being in the oven for 15 minutes. And I stuck a long fork into there, and it is not overly tender, but it's way past al dente, but it has a nice texture to it, so it's not smushy. And I'll have to let it cool off, and then I'll give it a try. But so far, looking pretty good. And I have been burning this kitchen up for 3 days. Tomato sauce, tomato soup, bell peppers, pickled, eggplant storage. And I'll tell you how I keep motivated. While I'm doing it, I watch the news. Food storage, food storage, food storage. Get you some, get it now. So I got my onions about halfway translucent. Then I've added the squash chunks. And it says to cook them about halfway through. Might take 15-20 minutes. But I'll keep them moving. And since I have a butter in there, instead of stirring, it's better to shake it. But I'll see what I can do. First time trying it.